Yo, 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 people and patrons of the night, it is your boy, the Horrorlander. It is officially that time of the year, people, that's right. No, I'm not talking about my time of the month, idiot. No, I'm talking about it's time for a Goosebumps review. And I thought that it'd be a great idea to go with the Goosebumps review for a book that actually fits this time of the year, which is New Year's. Now, New Year's is represented by a specific Goosebumps book, one that I explicitly know about, so that's why I chose to read it right now and then review it. And that is none other than from the Goosebumps Horrorland book series called Slappy New Year. What better way than to start off with some Slappy? He's an iconic Goosebumps villain, and of course, he has like 50 dang stories attached to him. So unless I want to get dogpiled by dummies towards the end of my Goosebumps journey, which believe me, you and I don't want to see that, it's better for me to get into more of his stories right now and cover them while I can. So this one is a perfect fit, and as many of you guys may know, he's going to keep appearing because, to put it nicely, Slappy is basically like the cockroach of the Goosebumps series. The dude just never dies. Whether you run over him with a steamroller, hit him with a speeding vehicle, get him struck down by lightning, hit him with Naruto's Rasengan, fire off Gojo's hollow purple at him, or just flat out write his name in Light Yagami's Death Note, the dude just never disappears. He's always coming back, always causing havoc, and this story is no exception to that. So without further ado, let's get into the review of Goosebumps Horrorland, Slappy New Year.
Here we go! Let's party! Rock!
First off, just to say, Slappy New Year's cover is pretty dang good, alright? I like this cover. I like the colors going on in it. I like Slappy's got his little party hat going on, little party streamer. And of course, you got his creepy look with it. So the fact that you got that fun setting, the fun balloons, fun atmosphere with this creepy look, it works pretty well. This book opens up taking place in Horrorland as you get introduced to the two main characters, Ray and Brandon. Ray is the older brother in this case, but he's the smaller kid. He's got blonde hair, glasses, sort of frail looking. And then you got his younger brother, Brandon, who's 9 years old. But he apparently is a Shaquille O'Neal of kids. He's huge. He's like the biggest kid in the 4th grade of whatever school they go to. So he's this kind of intimidating, hulking figure compared to other kids, and especially compared to his brother. Despite that, though, Brandon is said to be basically a scaredy cat. He's afraid of a lot of different things, such as bugs, which I can't blame him because I saw a video today of a praying mantis with like 8 parasitic worms coming out of its butt. He's scared of snakes, which, if we're talking about man-eating green anacondas from some jungle swamp like this, yeah, I get why you're scared of snakes, bruh. And roller coasters and scary rides, which I'm not gonna lie to you, bruh, I've always been scared of scary rides, and here we're talking about a Horrorland where that park is actively trying to kill you. So yeah, he's kind of justified so far in what he finds scary. You find out that the two brothers are essentially having a vacation at Horrorland, and right now Ray, the main character, the protagonist, is trying to find the scariest ride at this amusement park. So he's trying to go along to the different horrors, trying to ask them what's the scariest ride around. He finds one that has like a cap that says, you know, Scream, got yellow suspenders, and basically is recommending him different rides such as the Doom Slide, such as a roller coaster where you ride inside of a coffin. But Ray says, yeah, no, those ones I already did. They weren't as scary as I expected. For some reason, this horror is also constantly screaming too. I guess that's why he's on the clock, so he always has to take his ordinary break and just be like, yo, hold on, blood, I'm on the clock. Let me just scream real quick for you. Gotta do what you gotta do to pay the bills, I guess. So that's when the horror recommends them to go check out this new ride that they're basically setting up called the Shocker. And the Shocker is sort of a racetrack inside of this stadium, and it ends up being a weird case of a racetrack and bumper cars. So the two boys enter inside of the car, they start racing around the racetrack, except there's one problem. This ride comes with no brake. It's all gas. And if you start going into the lane that's outside of your racetrack lane, or you bump into anything such as the rail or the person next to you, you will get a vicious, grueling shock that will leave you basically feeling like you're about to die. So it's a pretty insane ride. That's also not scary enough for them, so then they end up meeting with this person who looks like he was in a freak accident because his body's covered with like glass and windows. And he ends up taking them into a hall of mirrors, which has a "let's get invisible" reference. Yeah, basically they turn these lights turn on inside of the hall of mirrors, and they're confronted by like dozens of different reflections of them. And they see that their reflections are inside the mirror, but their actual bodies are invisible. I don't remember if in the Let's Get Invisible book if the reflection itself was invisible or not. I believe it was, but here the reflections are not invisible, but you become invisible on the outside. Then the reflections start turning invisible, and then the reflections inside of the mirrors start laughing and acting crazy. So a pretty creepy scene overall. Overall, all the scenes involving Horrorland is just part one of this book, and I actually enjoy that the most. I am a big fan of Horrorland, as you can tell by my YouTube username. It is a play off the Homelander, but I am a fan of Horrorland. It's one of my favorite kids' horror settings, without a doubt my favorite setting in Goosebumps, and it's for all these fun rides and fun gimmicks and things. Even there's a description in the beginning of the book where it's like these wisps of fog was just hanging low on the Horrorland amusement park, which is a really good setting description. Then the two boys end up going into Chiller's souvenir shop, and they end up finding Slappy, and they end up taking Slappy home. Now, Brandon, the scaredy cat, is very reluctant because, of course, he's terrified of the dummy, thinks that it's a bad omen, but Ray doesn't care. Ray wants to scare Brandon. Ray likes collecting things, vintage bottles, cereal boxes, etc. So he wants to start making a dummy collection, and therefore they take away Slappy, while Chiller gives him a little horror souvenir and says, "Take a little horror home with you." When they get back to the house, that's where the Slappy story starts picking up, and you see that basically there is a New Year's Eve party that's going to be held by Ray and his best friend. I believe Ellen is her name. They want to host this New Year's Eve party while the adults are out. They want to invite a bunch of different kids, have pizza parties, limbo, do a bunch of fun things. And they basically have to be on their best behavior because Ray is constantly being accused for scaring his brother. His brother is always ratting on him, snitching on him, and then for his parents get him in trouble. So his parents say you have to make a New Year's resolution to not scare Brandon, to be on your best behavior, and only then can you have this New Year's party. Of course, trouble happens when they find the magical words that we know can bring Slappy to life. You know, Carl, Mari, you know the gig. They may or may not read it, and then some bad things start happening. Some pranks start happening around the house. You suspect there might be some more things going on. And if you've read enough Slappy stories, you know where the story can go at certain points. So with those antics, will they be able to hold the New Year's Eve party, or is there going to be problems that happen? You're going to find out with the story. There are some things that I quite enjoy about this book compared to other dummy books. There are some creepy description scenes within the book. One scene where Ray is inside of his bedroom trying to sleep. Slappy's inside of the closet locked up, and he swears, that maybe the dummy might be able to come to life. It's snowing outside and there's moonlight, so the moonlight's shining into his room. He sees weird shadows of snow falling around, and he imagines the dummy just breaking open the closet, walking out on his legs and walking out of the room. Again, very creepy stuff. It is expected, but the way Stine writes it is quite creepy. There's also a scene in the story where basically him and Brandon are talking, and they swear they can hear Slappy laughing and giggling maniacally inside of the closet underneath where they piled them filled with clothes. That's very creepy. Just imagine that you're in your room and you hear inside of the closet just some entity giggling and laughing. That's some creepy stuff, all right? There's also points in the story where Slappy's able to draw blood from some of the kids. He tries decapitating some of the kids, yes. There's a scene in this book where Slappy takes some lawn clippers you use for hedges, and he tries cutting off some kids' heads. He only gets... You don't know where it ends up, They get into some potential danger, and it is quite brutal. But with that, there are your typical dummy tropes, There's sort of a mock talent show. You got to do a show for a bunch of different parents. Slappy's joke in this book are pretty good. I did kind of chuckle at a few of them. Better humor than some of the other books. There's the "you gotta believe me" stuff and all that. There is a pretty gnarly climax scene where Slappy potentially might get defeated, and then you find out something that happens, and you eventually get this New Year's Eve party which is pretty wild. It did remind me of a scene from Bride of the Living Dummy, except I think this one is much better done than that one. That one was pretty weak sauce. This one is pretty strong sauce. I'd give it, you know, Sean Evans da bomb. This is better. Not the hottest thing in the world, but it's definitely more of a kick to it than what we got in Bride. And overall, how would I rate this story? Again, I have to include within part 1 where they were in Horrorland itself. Yeah, there was 5 chapters of no Slappy, but it is a part of the book. And some of the stuff in this book is better than some of the other dummy books that I've read, just in terms of descriptions, kind of hyping up how creepy Slappy is, actually having them draw blood, cause damage, try to kill kids, like actually try to kill kids in this instance. But with the tropes, with some of the kind of weird things that happen, like there's a point where like the best friend Ellen, I think, is like trying to stand up for Ray, saying like, no, like he couldn't have done any of these pranks because he was with me downstairs planning the whole New Year's Eve party. And then when the parents don't believe him and don't believe Ellen, then when they leave, Ellen just basically says, how could you do this? Well, you just stood up for bro. Well, you're just going to turn your back now? You just stood up for the man saying he was with you the whole time. Now you're going to act fake? All right, bruh. I see how it is. So yeah, some weak points in the writing, some typical character stuff, typical dummy tropes. There are some better points in it. And honestly, my favorite part of this book is still the Horrorland section. I love the Shocker ride. I love the Hall of Mirrors. Again, Horrorland is just one of my favorite settings. Even when I read Little Shop of Hamsters, which is another book from the second half of the Horrorland series, there is a scene with parasitic blood-sucking shrimp hopping out of food and attacking the kids. There's a lot of cool stuff in Horrorland. Zombie Plaza, Werewolf Village. You know the gist of it. Overall, I guess I'd probably give this a 7.4 out of 10, which is close to a pretty good. Maybe I'd even round it to a 7.5 out of 10, or maybe 7.6. It's a pretty good book. I wouldn't say it's flat out good. Wouldn't say it's flat out very good or great, fantastic, but it's pretty good. I think you'd have a fun enough time, and if you like Slappy stories, I definitely suggest you check it out. And if you like Horrorland, you're still going to get some good stuff in that. This book does not have a separate plot line like the first half of Horrorland does. It just has a little nod towards the characters meeting Chiller. So yeah, overall the story, I'd give it anywhere between a 7.4 to a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good for Slappy book's sake. And yeah, do I recommend you check it out? Go read it, all right? Maybe it's not as New Year's heavy as you thought it would have been. At least definitely that was for me. But New Year's is still a big part of it. If you like the scene from Bride of the Living Dummy in the climax, there's a better version of that scene here. And yeah, go check it out. Not a bad entry, and I can say I'm pretty happy with this Slappy book overall. That's all I got for today. If you enjoyed, a free way to support me and show love, especially for the new year where we got to keep this empire growing, hit that subscribe button down below, hit that like button down below, and comment down below. What are your thoughts about this book? Have you read it before? Are you interested in reading it? Or just leave something positive and nice to kick off the new year. That's all I got for today. Everybody stay safe. I hope you have a prosperous new year. And of course, thank you for the tremendous growth that I've experienced on this channel. Right now we're at 1,800 subscribers. Pretty damn cool. I'm getting a lot more comments, interaction from you guys checking out my videos. I've seen it all. So thank you guys for all the support. Thank you guys for all the new fans out there. And God bless. Deuces.
アリーベ・デルチ